Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Hope everybody had a restful vacation. Lucas Panzica is back from his break. Good morning, bud. Good to see you.
Good morning.
It is, in fact, a good morning, yes, instead of, the last couple of times that I've wandered in here on a Monday, said good morning, and then you ask me, is it?
Today it is. Today it is.
Lucas, we got a tweet last night. Did you see it?
A tweet?
A tweet. A tweet with a picture. Do you know what was in the picture that we got later in the evening, about 10:15, 10:10, 10:20 maybe, thereabouts? Did you see it?
No, I was happily in bed.
Okay, well, good. After the Baltimore Ravens beat the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football, who were at 4-6, now 4-7, can you tell me what that means by nature of head-to-head tiebreakers?
Sounds like the Titans made the graphic.
Oh, my God. The Titans made the graphic. Titans won a football game, kids. And that's not even the most breaking news this morning. 17-10 yesterday against the Carolina Panthers. And what did the Carolina Panthers turn around and do? Fired Frank Reich this morning. Woo! Unbelievable. I mean, not unbelievable. That there was a lot of coaching. I don't want to call it malpractice. Can I call it cowardice? There was a lot of coaching cowardice yesterday.
That play call at the end by the Panthers.
Oh, my God. I mean, not even the play call at the end. The fourth and short that they go for and run a pitch play. I've never seen somebody lose 6 yards on a fourth and short running a pitch play. I was just so confused by everything that the Carolina Panthers, gutless Carolina Panthers, is who the Tennessee Titans beat yesterday, and that's fine. We'll get to the Titans, but Frank Reich did get fired about an hour ago, or at least it was announced about an hour ago, less than 24 hours after the owner left the locker room here in Nashville, the opposing locker room here at Nissan Stadium, muttering an expletive that rhymes with buck. I don't want to laugh because Frank Reich, legitimately good man. And, not the solution in Carolina. That you want to talk about, and I'm doing Carolina Sports Talk Radio to start the Nashville radio show, but it is crazy how we kind of look at these things in the offseason, whether it's the Titans, the Panthers, the Chiefs, whoever you want to talk about, the Bears. Good example of this. Carolina with Frank Reich, the number one overall pick, an all-star coaching staff, and an owner who said, I don't care what it costs, go get it. 1-10. There's no perfect way to orchestrate a winning or successful football season. And a lot of this stupid bleep comes down to luck, if I'm being completely honest with you. For all the time spent toiling away and grinding it out and 3 a.m. up. What did Russell Wilson say yesterday after they beat the Browns? That Sean Payton has their coaching staff in the building every night until 3 a.m.?
Let's ride.
I mean, it's 6-5, by the way. So,
5 straight wins.
A lot of this is nonsensical, even though you do everything. It's like Texas A&M, who, by the way, we'll get to later today. A lot of different topics floating around, but the Titans did win a football game yesterday, and in the process, got another head coach fired. They did this to Urban Meyer a couple of years ago. Well, Urban Meyer did this to himself.
The losing to the Titans was the final straw for Urban Meyer, as it was for Frank Reich.
But, Lucas, they had not had a coach, a first-year coach, or at least a head coach in a job in his first year. Like not a rookie head coach, right? But like Frank Reich, a veteran head coach in his first year on a job. They had not had one of those guys fired in the history of the league until Herb. And then they've now gone 3 consecutive. Urban Meyer, Nathaniel Hackett, and now Frank Reich with the Carolina Panthers.
And David Tepper's going for some sort of record here.
Tepper's fired 3 coaches since he took over in 2018.
5 years ago. It's
crazy. So listen, you can be underwhelmed with a win against the worst team in football. A lot of you were yesterday, and I kind of scoffed at that when I got some of that reaction. I know that's not the majority of people. The majority of people are just happy to go watch a football game, see a football team win, right? I think for the most part. A lot of people upset because Titans won a football game and, quote, ruined their draft position or something like that. I don't have the patience for people like that today because they're in the graphic, back in the hunt, back in the mix. God. But still, when you run these organizations me telling people how to run an NFL organization, having never run an NFL organization, but there does seem to be a trend when you make these decisions emotionally as opposed to pragmatically. David Tepper probably not in the best headspace after he walked out of the opposing locker room at Nissan Stadium last night. Made a decision that everybody is 11 games into a season is a really, really quick trigger. For a team that did have a lot of deficiencies, did for sure underperform on the season, but all of that is on Frank Reich? That's who you're pinning the blame on? It's a fall guy situation. They've got a ton of problems that go beyond Frank Reich. Is that going to fix them? I don't know who their next opponent is in Week 12. But I don't necessarily know that that's going to fix the 1-10 Carolina Panthers, what they did this morning in firing Frank Reich. And I'm not saying that, maybe at the end of the season you don't part ways with them, but there does seem to be an unhinged quality to something like that that does not lead to, one, stability, and two, building upon something to try and accomplish the goal that you set out to do. You may get close. You may, people frustrated with Mike Vrabel, for example. Mike Vrabel stays getting Frank Reich fired from jobs, it would seem.
Jordan on the F&M Bank chat also points out that Tepper owns Charlotte FC as well in MLS, who just finished its second season of MLS existence and is on like its third head coach.
No, that's not real. He's done this with two professional organizations, just cycled through coaches like this?
He doesn't own the Hornets, does he? Also a perpetually terrible organization.
No, didn't Michael Jordan recently abdicate?
That's right.
Abdicate ownership of that? Because even the greatest of all time really doesn't have a secret sauce, even whatever Bugs Bunny put in the Space Jam bottle, right? That even MJ doesn't have a secret sauce to running a professional sports organization. This stuff is hard.
Sorry, Charlotte FC has not yet hired their third coach.
Okay,
they're still looking. So they've gone through two in as many seasons.
So anyway, Titans got somebody fired yesterday en route to winning a game. Now the game itself was not good, right? The game itself was dragged on, a lot of bad offense, two below average by any standard football teams. But Titans played well enough and remain undefeated at home. That's all that matters. 4-7 with a lot of opportunities left at home, given that the vast majority of your schedule remaining is at home. The next opponent, a divisional opponent, by the way, the 6-5 Indianapolis Colts. How about that? Big game in the AFC South yesterday between the Texans and the Jags to decide who would lead the division. Jags come out of that. So still, we're talking about the Titans at the bottom of the division. But it's fascinating to see how this is going to play out. It's a season-long science experiment. We talked about this, and we're now just going through it in parts. So what they accomplished yesterday was something that they needed to do from, I think, Lucas, you and I are in agreement that the Titans needed to win a football game. This is not.
Yes.
There is nobody among us. I don't know where Bert is. He threatened to pop in here for something. He's threatening to do something to me at some point, or at least he was last night while we were prepping for prime time. I'm not sure what that involves, but
I think that's happening at some point. I don't know when or what it is.
Well, that's good. Anyway, everybody within, these two studios is in agreement that the Titans needed to win a football game and that losing a football game would not be to the benefit of the franchise.
The locker room doesn't give a damn about Marvin Harrison Jr. right now.
Yes. And my God, what, new life into that locker room. People are accusing them of Mike Vrabel of not having a firm grip on the situation in the locker room, of not having his message still resound with some of these players. They come out and win a football game. It's a one-score football game against the worst team in football. I understand. You can use whatever kind of qualifiers you want to win a football game. I think that with all the different stuff that's come to pass, I mean, hell, when's the last time we were on the air? You were here Tuesday. I was here Wednesday. And I don't even think like the Diana Rossini stuff about Mike Vrabel's job security had come to light. I know that Diana and I were talking about that when after the Jacksonville loss, because she said she was going to dig into it this week and did a good job to do so, speaking to ownership, according to her article in The Athletic. So there's been a lot of events that have happened since we last talked to you on Wednesday. But the point is, as they try and figure out what they have in Will Levis and whether Mike Vrabel is the right head coach to kind of turn this thing around, not kind of, to try and turn this thing around, then the last thing that you want them doing is screwing around out there and losing a football game to the Carolina Panthers. Because, like I said, it could always be worse. You could be those Carolina Panthers whose owner is walking out of the locker room, a sad visiting locker room in the bowels of Nissan Stadium, screaming bleep.
What is an organization that has been as down bad as the Panthers are right now? Just in this dire of a situation, it's so easy to say this is the worst you've ever seen because it's recency bias.
Oh no, the Browns have done done so much worse for decades.
But just as far as the hole that they need to dig out of, with now the coach who selected this number 1 overall pick is fired. There has been no progress with the offense. It's one of, if not the worst roster in football.
It's bad. And
they don't even have a first-round pick to try and fix it next season.
Cleveland, I don't know off the top of my head, but like Cleveland has things like this in their past. I'm sure there's an odd amount of Cleveland Browns fans that populate the Nashville, at least downtown Nashville area. A lot of them in East Nashville too, I notice. That would probably call in and saying, no, you don't understand. The Carolina Panthers have it good. They recently had a Super Bowl appearance, even if Cam Newton kind of, lackadaisically did or did not go after a fumble that lost them the game. Like the Carolina Panthers have been to a Super Bowl, have been to multiple Super Bowls, as a matter of fact. The Cleveland Browns are a godforsaken football organization.
Chuck and Matthew on the F&M Bank chat pointing out the 0-16 Lions. I'm not talking about are they the worst football team in the history of the NFL.
Organizationally.
Yeah, just
where there's rot.
The hole that they have to dig out of right now, it seems almost impossible. Like it seems like a 4 to 5 year process here of trying to figure out how to work out of this situation that the Panthers are in with Adam Thielen and nothing else on offense.
Because somebody immediately says, honestly, kind of wish I was in Carolina's position right now. Well, then what are you doing listening to sports talk radio? Like, that's the kind, like, I just assume that you're completely unhappy in everything in your life if you're that kind of miserable today.
Yeah.
Like, what is the productive?
I just feel bad for you.
No, I don't even feel bad for you.
No, I feel bad for you.
I don't feel bad for you at all. I find that kind of behavior, I don't find you loathsome personally, but I find that kind of behavior loathsome and just completely unproductive and just saying something for the sake of saying something and having your name read on the air, which we're not even going to do you the courtesy of because that's a waste of time today. Like, what are you doing with your day? I'm curious to know. Do you have anything else? Do you have somebody you could call to maybe talk to? You could call and talk to us, and you could say this on the air, and I could, do this same exchange with you on the phone if you like to. But I just assume that you're a perpetually miserable person.
I wish we were 1-10 without a first-round pick.
What a stupid-ass thing to say. Anyway, we don't have to get bogged down in that. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Titans front has its best performance in quite some time. Ardon Key, who's been under a little bit of heat to try and get out there and perform. He spoke on it yesterday. You will hear from him coming up next.
Looking, hit, sack! Oh my goodness! Big Jeff with a crusher!
Jeff Simmons getting in on the action, had a huge game yesterday. Titans defense having a huge game yesterday against the Carolina Panthers, 17-10. Derrick Henry and the defense, probably the two biggest stories on the day. Derrick going past the 9,000 career rushing yards mark and also passing Marshawn Lynch on the all-time rushing touchdown list. Derrick Henry is now 17th all-time, and Will Levis had some good quotes about that yesterday, kind of, what an honor it is to play with Derrick Henry at this point in his career, where basically every time it's a handoff, it's history. But the defense had a huge part to do with the win. Titans have plenty of issues, plenty of penalties, plenty of mistakes that they absolutely have to get to clean up. The rookie quarterback I thought was okay. I thought he had some missed opportunities, but the defense really came through strong. Ardon Key had the sack and the forced fumble that was recovered by Jeff Simmons, who ended up having, who also had, that was one of the sacks, one of the 4 sacks that the Titans did have on the day. Jeff and Danico Autry, who had 2. The second, just 2 plays before the Titans forced the Panthers to turn the ball over on downs with 1:55 left to make sure that they could hang on to the win.
And Autry making some history.
So, yeah, what's the number on Autry? Or the numbers?
For the 3rd consecutive season, Danico Autry has 8 or more sacks for the Titans. He's the first to do that in a Titans uniform for 3 straight seasons since Javon Curse, the freak.
Pretty good. Pretty good. So, Danico Autry, who, it feels like we haven't talked about him much, even though he continues to be out there. This is the kind of stuff that when, like, Vrabel says, we just have to keep repping it. At some point, we'll break through, whether it's the turnovers, whether it's the sacks. They come in bunches, stuff like that, right? And again, it is the Carolina Panthers. Titans aren't that much better than the Carolina Panthers right now, so I do think that this victory is of consequence.
Bad job, though, by Jeff of pandering to Vols fans when he tossed Cade Mays like a rag doll to go sack Bryce Young.
Well, and also tossed Cade Mays out the game.
Yeah, got to do a better job of pandering.
Out the club, out the game, out the way.
That was violent. That was, oh my goodness.
The way that Jeff brought Bryce Young down. Are you talking about the Cade Mays or just all of it?
I'm talking about the way he threw Cade Mays like he was literally a Raggedy Ann doll that was just on the floor and just threw him.
I felt scared for Bryce Young yesterday. I felt fear because he's so small. He's just so small. Did you see that video of him and Levis greeting each other after the game? Levis looks like he's got 5. Levis looks with his arm around Bryce Young as if he's a father holding a child to his chest, as if to say, it's okay, son. He literally says in the clip, stay healthy. It's okay. Or no, not it's okay, but he says stay healthy in the clip. It's just hilarious because, we've seen Kyler, we've seen Baker, we've seen these quarterbacks who are under 6 foot. But he is also so slight in the middle of all this. And I think is missing some of these throws because he just can't physically see over some of the players out there on the field. It's crazy. But, yeah, Jeff, violence in 2 parts. Throwing Cade Mays like he would, somebody Lucas or I size, and then almost suplexing Bryce Young into the ground for the sack, 1 of 4 on the day for the Titans. Huge play there at the end of the game. Amani Hooker had a big tackle on DJ Chark for the no gain on 4th and 6, which caused the turnover on downs. Ultimately, it was a really good sequence by the Titans defense, who's talked a lot about, hey, we just need to play better collectively between the 20s. We're still solid as a red zone group. There's been some miscues. And they had some moments, right? Titans' 3rd down defense, still a question. There's plenty of reason to question that as a 3rd down defense right now. But on the whole, good enough to win the football game yesterday.
They were the Panthers on 3rd down.
Do you have the number? I can pull it up real quick.
Well, I just had it.
They were 6 of 16.
That's right.
On 3rd down. It was 37.5%. Do you know what the Titans were? I have it in front of me.
Was it bad?
It's real bad.
I think I saw it this morning. Was it 2 for 11?
It was 18.2%.
Man.
That's okay. Still a win? Question mark in the graphic? 18.2% on 3rd down, but woo, that second half. It was tough. We'll get to it, okay? But Ardon Key yesterday on what kind of clicked for the defense. See how many times, if maybe we'll have to play the clip twice, but see how many times you can count in real time that Ardon Key says the word or a version of simple.
On defense, just the calls and everything, it was simple. And as you saw, once everything is simple, we get to play fast.
Why was it simpler, I guess? How can you explain how things were simpler for you guys out there today?
Not to get too much in schemes,
Right.
but it was a lot of stuff that you seen early in the year we didn't run. And today we ran simple defense and stuff. And we played fast. We played with our hair on fire. And yeah, we was at home and fans and stuff like that. But just we didn't need the advanced stuff.
Yeah, right.
Just keep it simple and run fast.
Important is that to kind of get back to basics when maybe you've had a little bit of a stretch where maybe guys are swimming a little bit?
Very, very important. I mean, we went on the road, lost 3. You come home and see how you can fix it. And we came this week and they said it was going to be simple. And we played good.
I got him at 6.
Yeah, I got 6.
Okay. Keep it simple, baby. So he's saying, yeah, a lot of the stuff you saw us trying to do, like doing too much at the start of the year, just get back to basics with guys and go out there, put them in obvious passing situations, and then just have the defense tee off. They are regarded as one of the better schemed defenses in football, the Titans. At least prior to this season, they had. I know there's been some issues with them this season, but you do see some of the cool stuff. Like, I don't know how many of you were listening to the Roger McCreary interview. What was that, 2 weeks ago we had Roger? I don't think we had a player during Thanksgiving week because the schedule was wonky. But McCreary, when he's articulating what they were doing on the play that got him the interception, what put him in position to make the interception in Tampa. And he walked you through kind of the coverage and what they were seeing and what it allowed him to do and how it put him in position to make that play. So there is that stuff that has them or holds them in high regard with a lot of people who are, if you're just looking to throw on some defensive tape to see what people are doing around the league, why don't you watch some snaps of the Titans? Their down defense this year been shaky. And the turnovers haven't been there, although they capitalized yesterday with one that was much needed with great field position for the offense and just giving the damn defense a break. Oof.
Yeah, we've talked about this with the defense. Defense has gotten a lot of flack this year because it hasn't been elite, right? It's the top 10 scoring defense. It's a good enough defense to win. We should be talking a lot more about the offensive struggles, and they haven't been perfect. There's been games where they haven't been able to affect the quarterback. They give up chunk plays, poor tackling. But overall, defense has played well enough to win this year. That's not the Titans' biggest issue.
615-737-1045 is the number. What is the Titans' biggest issue right now? Because yesterday there's still some flaws that are worth talking about. But, between their 8th different offensive line, how many games have they played?
Whatever 4 plus 7 is, 11.
Okay. You didn't even then come with very much confidence to the microphone when you just kind of like brushed by it far away from the microphone. 11.
Have plausible deniability is I got to muck up the
Move
word.
Quickly. 11.
Yeah.
Yes, 11 games. How many do you see the number from Jimmy yesterday? I don't know if you saw the stat. How many different offensive line combinations they've used this year in 11 games?
How many?
8. Just so in 8 of the 11 games that they have played, they have had a different offensive line combination.
New one yesterday.
Yep, that's right. And by the way, allowed as few sacks in a game as any other time this season for the Titans. 1 sack for a loss of 1 yard of Will Levis yesterday. And for the most part, he had some good pockets. Levis missed some throws, and you'll hear from him talking about ball location and accuracy issues for the first time in live game action. We've talked about some of the interceptable passes, but yesterday I think was some of the a good visual for fans to see the growing pains in real time of where he excels and also where he stands to improve. And DeAndre Hopkins spoke to that as well. We'll play that for you later. But on the whole, I think simplifying things to whatever extent, and I'll ask Greg honestly on Wednesday, like what he saw from the Titans defense that would kind of lend itself to the notion of playing simplistically versus what it is that the Titans' tendencies are. And we'll have that for you on the install on Wednesday afternoon. AJ Parkin says easy bucket was the Panthers. Like, I don't care. The Panthers beat the Texans this year. There's all kinds of weird stuff. I don't care who the opponent is. If you're a football team that is facing an inferior opponent, then you should win. They won yesterday. We're talking about the reasons why. Like, am I right to be annoyed by the amount of it was the Panthers stuff yesterday? Because it's honestly annoying to me.
I mean, it matters who the opponent is. The bottom line here is the Titans' defense, especially the front seven, went up against an offensive line unit that, are we going to say worst in the NFL? The Carolina Panthers offensive line?
Yes, oh my God, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Went up against an inferior offensive line unit and dominated it the way they should, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, the offensive line, the much maligned offensive line on their 8th new combination of the season, went up against a front that just has not affected the quarterback this year.
No.
Damned Panthers have probably the worst.
Damned if Brian Burns doesn't try.
Sure. And they gave up 1 sack. Okay. You went up against an inferior opponent. You got the better of them in the trenches. There are obviously plenty of other things, but yeah, to me, that's the bottom line. You dominated somebody you were supposed to in certain areas of the game. Obviously, I know the Titans only won by 7.
Well, my whole thing is, like, if we spend all this time during the course of the week talking about the things that they did wrong in a game and lost, and then they do it right in a game, and then they're still bitching about it. I mean, you can bitch about whatever you want. There's plenty of stuff to bitch about in the second half. The play calling, they're conservative as all hell. The run game, the level of consistency that they continue to not bring to their rushing attack is a problem against better opponents. But how the hell are you supposed to evaluate them against better opponents if they don't go out there and perform the way that they did yesterday? Mike Vrabel said it yesterday, and you can turn your nose up at it if you want. But honestly, I don't know how many more wins you have on your schedule. Like, I'm not going to do the record prediction thing because I think it's a waste of time. But, like, if you're being honest, I don't know how anybody could turn their nose up at a win when the state of the franchise is the way that it is. Because, in 6 more weeks, this stuff is not changing. So now you look at it in a 1-game sample size and say, okay, are there things that show, is there evidence that what Will Levis is doing in improving is helping them to a win in a football game? Yesterday, there was that. Is there evidence that the different offensive line combination, i.e. Jalen Duncan, who, my God, if you can figure out potentially a second offensive lineman, like, I know it's a low bar. I understand the depths that I'm going to here, talking about the state of the roster right now, but this is all stuff that we knew. If you can figure out whether Jalen Duncan can play for your offensive line next year so you don't have to burn another pick on an offensive lineman that may or may not work out, my God, don't you want to figure that out? He did well enough yesterday. We'll see what he looks like against better competition. You have to start somewhere. Just all this inane bitching about stuff that you want fixed, and then they put it together in a game, and all of a sudden it's not good enough. Like, I just think that's so lame.
Well, we've talked about this. Do you want to see Will Levis continue to grow in his rookie year and develop as a rookie quarterback and a leader of this team?
Yes.
If the answer is yes, then you don't get the tanking too. Like, you don't get to want losses to close out the year. You don't get to have both. If you want Will Levis to continue to improve in his rookie year and continue to prove he's the franchise quarterback, you want Will Levis to lead this team to wins, as many wins as possible. Because look what's happening in Carolina right now. How much confidence is there right now around Bryce Young? I'm not saying he's a bust. He's surrounded by a horrendous situation. But you just can't have both.
615-737-1045 is the number. Go to the phones. Get your reaction on this Monday. Titans beat the Panthers at Nissan Stadium 17-10. Let's go to Derek in White House.
Hey, I was calling. I was asking, what are the chances that they go to the playoffs, or who do they got to beat, and just basically what does that look like now that they won this game?
Oh, my God. That's a total 180 from the show I was prepared to do today. I suppose we can look that up for you. Had you done that yet, Lucas? Because I at 4-7 had not, I had not granted them the grace just yet of looking up their playoff scenarios. Now, I'm not laughing at the question, Derek. We'll find you an answer. But I got to admit, I'm not there. While I am talking about ways that they improved and won a football game, I don't know that I'm prepared to, actually consider playoff scenarios, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, so the first wild card team on the bubble, the team on the outside looking in right now, the Texans at 6-5. The Broncos also 6-5. The Bills at 6-6. The Bengals 5-6. The Raiders 5-7. Titans, Chargers, and Jets all 4-7. So
A lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do.
A lot of games at
I
home.
mean, what would you have to do? Would you have to win out?
Yes.
You finish 10, 10
oh my
and
God.
7?
Can you imagine? I can't. I just. I'm not doing that today. I refuse to do 10. Like, then we are guilty of what the chat is accusing us. Talk about a scenario. Oh, no. There is a way. They're not dead yet. If you beat the Colts on Sunday at Nissan Stadium, if you get a win in the division, maybe we can actually start to talk about it. Maybe. 5-7 is a lot different than 4-7. But I don't know. Call me next week, Derek. Next Monday. I'll be right here. Coming up next, big weekend in college football. We'll get back to the Titans. By the way, Mike Vrabel going to speak to the media at noon. A lot of you guys have questions about the offensive play calling. I expect Mike Vrabel will get quite a few throughout the course of the morning. A reminder that Toy Field is coming up, and Toy Field is more important, so let me tell you about Toy Field real quick. We're building a field of toys to benefit the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels. It's the 16th annual Toy Field Drive, sponsored by A.O. Smith and Coolray. This coming, that's next Tuesday, as a matter of fact, at Nissan Stadium. While you're out doing your holiday shopping, remember those in need this holiday season. Pick up a gift for a senior or a toy and help 104.5 The Zone and Cumulus Media build a field of toys at Toy Field on next Tuesday. Special thanks to Pig and Pie Catering, Hattie B's, and O'Charlie's. For more information, visit 1045thezone.com/events today. We'll get into Joe Milton playing his final game at Neyland Stadium coming up next. All right, ask and you shall receive before we get to the Joe Milton stuff. Welcome back to the show. Happy Monday to you. Vols get a big win over Vandy at Neyland Stadium. Titans win at Nissan Stadium against the Panthers. Preds, 5 in a row last night. State of Tennessee. Sports luck feeling a little up as of late after a couple of down weeks around here. But we did have a caller call in and ask for the playoff percentage chances of the Tennessee Titans at 4-7 after a win over the wretched Carolina Panthers yesterday. I have the numbers via the New York Times playoff predictor. They have currently, do you want to guess, a percentage chance to make the postseason. In the AFC South, where the Jags, you said 2?
2.
Okay. It's less than 1.
0.8.
Well, no. They don't go.
Oh, okay.
They don't go decimals here. It's just the less than sign, 1%. So, do you want to guess what the other 3 are in the AFC South? Just to make the postseason.
What, their percentage?
Mm-hmm. Percentage. If the Titans are less than 1%, what are the Colts at 6-5, the Texans at 6-5, and the Jags at 8-3?
Who has the head-to-head between Colts and Texans?
Did you just hear that?
Did you just spill your coffee?
Yep.
Good job. I'm going to say the Jags have a have a 50. I'm going to say Jags have a 63% chance.
Jags have a 99% chance to make the
99
postseason. Look, they're 8-3.
Yeah, man. Got the win against Houston. That's a big jump. I wonder what that jump was from yesterday to today, because that game between Texans and Jags, the winner of that game was going to come out at the top of the division, and a huge opportunity for the Texans missed to sweep the Jags and have that head-to-head in their back pocket in a year where Jacksonville is trending towards having the better record. So, wow, 99% chance. And then the Texans
6-5 lost the game to the Jags yesterday.
What did you say between head-to-head Texans and Colts? Who won that game?
Texans and Colts?
Yeah, who won?
Texans.
The Texans beat the Colts.
Texans beat the Colts.
I'm going to say Texans have a 48% chance.
The Texans have a 58% chance.
And the Colts slightly less?
A 43% chance. Bert has to come in here and clean up my mess in real time, which sorry, buddy. It's good to see you, by the way. This is how I would prefer our appearances to go, with you mopping up something in the background without access to a microphone. And I love that this is on camera.
He's too good to you. It's not on camera.
What do you mean it's not on camera?
He's creeping in there.
Bud. So, yes, a less than 1% chance to make the postseason. The sound of the paper towels in the background is hilarious to me. So, Joe Milton at Neyland Stadium. Lucas, are you excited about what Joe Milton did on Saturday against Vanderbilt? Or are you slightly disappointed at the fact that Joe Milton hasn't been doing that, especially with his legs, all year long?
Yeah, it's weird. It's mixed feelings, because Milton puts out by far the best performance, not just of his Tennessee career, but his college football career. He goes 22 of 33, 383 yards, 4 touchdowns in the air. He adds 2 touchdowns on the ground. It's his first time as a Tennessee quarterback to throw for 300 or more yards. It's a career high in touchdowns. 48-24 the final for Tennessee over Vanderbilt to finish 8-4. And it's Vanderbilt. Yes, it's a Vanderbilt team that's lost 10 in a row, but Milton couldn't do this against Austin Peay, right? Milton couldn't do this against lesser opponents this season. So it is weird. It's mixed emotions with Joe finishing out his Tennessee career, and I don't know if he's going to play in the bowl game or not. We'll find out where Tennessee's going bowling on Sunday, and then maybe there will be an announcement. Maybe Joe wants to get another game in. Maybe he wants to opt out, and Nico steps in. But I feel, is it wrong that I feel bad for saying, where was this before?
No.
Right? Like, that part of me was...
How many Tennessee fans are saying that?
Yeah, like slightly frustrated.
That's the part of you that I want
like,
today.
Yeah, you saved it for Vanderbilt. All right.
No. Now, don't do that to him. Saved it. But, like, I do think there's a degree... Hell, the coaching staff is probably frustrated. If they know that Milton can do it, and there's a reticence on his part, whether that's because it's not as natural to him or whatever the case may be, because he's not a running quarterback, right? Joe Milton is a pocket passer. He does have otherworldly athletic gifts, which is why you're convinced that an NFL team is going to take a chance on him. That you think he's for sure getting drafted.
He's for sure getting drafted. Yes. Do you have doubts that he's going to get drafted?
No, I don't, because teams have taken chances. Oh, I'm going to have to switch this one over, Bert. In real time. Teams have taken chances on guys with higher athletic upside than Joe Milton, or with less athletic upside than Joe Milton.
He's switching mics.
Talk, Lucas. Oh, no. I'm going to get a very sternly worded email here in a little bit, but that's fine. So, Vanderbilt, obviously an inferior opponent. Vols not dispatch, but dispatch them at home in front of a very excited crowd. And then you got to see Nico play, which I know a lot of you are very much focused on at this point. And for Nico Iamaliava, I thought that the moments have not looked too big for him, and that I would like to see a larger sample size of him whenever we determine what bowl game the University of Tennessee at 8-4 is going to get. But on the whole, we kind of talked about this for the past couple of weeks about where their season would be or would not be a success at this point. And it feels like, on the whole, that they got through the Milton period. However, we're going to remember Joe Milton, because the way that I'm going to remember him is better teammate than actual player. And that's fine for a stopgap guy. Like, he's an A1 character, leader, right person to bridge the gap, good person to have in front of a freshman, highly touted freshman quarterback for him to sit behind, redshirt behind, and learn from, and also somebody who you would desire more from as far as his performance.
That to me is what determines whether or not we can have the conversation. Was it a good season for Tennessee? Was it successful? Was it a disappointment? For me, it's okay to say that depends on what happens in the next 2, 3, 4 years of Tennessee football. What happens for the rest of the Heupel era? And that will be what shows us, was this indeed a stopgap year? Or was this kind of a sign of what's to come and what's going to be more of the norm in the Heupel era?
615-737-1045 is the number. We'll get back to the Titans, the win over the Carolina Panthers yesterday. What do the Titans do better at home than they do on the road, where they remain undefeated, 4-0 at Nissan Stadium, 0-7 everywhere else? We'll talk about it coming up next.
It is 10:59. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans return to Nissan Stadium with a win on Sunday, a 17-10 final over the Carolina Panthers. Titans led 17-3 at the break with 2 touchdowns from Derrick Henry in the first half.
Here's Henry, left guard, breaks the tackle to the 5. Henry to the end zone.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the King! Touchdown! Titans! Takeaway! Touchdown! That's complimentary football.
Henry had 18 carries for 76 yards. He crossed the 9,000-yard mark for his career on Sunday. Titans allowed just 1 sack on the day and sacked Panthers quarterback Bryce Young 4 times as they improved to 4-7 and remain unbeaten at Nissan Stadium this season. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media at noon. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. The loss dropped Carolina to 1-10 on the year. This morning, Ian Rappaport reported that Panthers head coach Frank Reich has been fired before the end of his first season. In college football news, Texas A&M has hired Duke head coach Mike Elko as the next head coach in College Station, replacing Jimbo Fisher. Elko was the defensive coordinator at A&M under Fisher from 2018 to 2021, and Mississippi State announced the hiring of Oklahoma offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby as their next head coach over the weekend, replacing the fired Kevin Arnett. The Nashville Predators grabbed their 5th straight win Sunday, 3-2 over the Winnipeg Jets. They improved to 10-10. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Generally throughout the course of the game, whether it's on special teams, whether it's pre-snap, whether it's mostly been in those 2 areas once you start to categorize these things out. And again, penalties, 8 for 53 yesterday against the Titans. Panthers only penalized 4 for 35 yards throughout the course of the game. What is happening for the Titans to miss the mark on this? Or where are they kind of falling through where are they kind of losing in the margins on the road as opposed to what they're doing at home? Now, they didn't match their home scoring total, which had been 27 points, north of 27 points on the year. It's crazy to think about. Given the rest of the offensive struggles, certainly there was plenty of offensive struggles to go around yesterday where they were 2 of 11 on 3rd down and unable to sustain drives in the second half. Play calling got conservative as well, and they were playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win, and you could feel that permeate everything that they did. There were boos at Nissan Stadium for the offense again, but still good enough to win the football game. I'm so curious to see what they look like at Nissan Stadium against the Colts, because if you remember this first Colts game at Lucas Oil in October, is a game that was eminently winnable, and they just felt like they fell apart in a variety of different areas. Now, maybe that's because they are, in fact, an inferior football team to Indianapolis. By record, that would indicate that that's so, 6-5 to 4-7. But this is a massive game for their season, for the coach, for the quarterback, for everybody who's kind of discounting, and there's a lot of people, rightfully so, that would discount and win over the Carolina Panthers, to turn around and say, all right, can you actually build upon something here? This was Will Levis talking about the idea of getting their mojo back in ways that were kind of interesting to hear a rookie articulate about a veteran locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the guys today about,
we got to get our juice back. We got to just get our mojo back, and it's tough. It's tough these past few weeks looking around after games and just seeing the looks in dudes' eyes of dudes that we all know are dogs, and just got guys go out there and have done this year in and year out, and to just let's regain that confidence today. Which I think getting the win alone was enough to do that, and hopefully we can keep that rolling and get these guys' confidence up going into Indy.
So you don't think about like dudes like Derrick Henry and Jeffrey Simmons, guys who Will Levis is describing there as dogs, or Hopkins, lacking confidence, right? But, I mean, those things start to creep in when you've had the lack of success that they have had down the stretch of the better part of an entire season now, dating back to last November. And I think that for the Titans, playing almost all of these games, there's all but 2 are at home down the stretch. You've got the Dolphins, which right now we'll see. We should have news on that here pretty soon about whether it's flexed or not, right?
I'd be shocked at this point.
It's getting to the final hour, right? But like they do have the ability to flex that Monday Night Football game, because remember there are 2 Monday Night Football games in that slate, so maybe they might shift around the time slot that the Titans and Dolphins are scheduled to play in. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's 2 weeks from tonight.
Right.
So if it was going to get flexed,
it would be today. I mean, I assume, we'll find out. The league typically sends out a schedule change email with that stuff anyway, so I'd keep an eye on that, I'm sure.
I mean, Packers-Giants is the other matchup. What's the worst game?
Oh. Giants also 4-7.
But the Giants are having this little run with Tommy DeVito, right? I mean, both have rookie quarterbacks in completely different circumstances.
I think it's a mistake to look at it as what's the better game. What's going to rate better?
Right.
Giants and Packers is going to rate better. Those are 2. I mean, Dolphins have a massive fan base. Titans are the oddball in that conversation. But Giants-Packers is an objectively bigger television game. They'll want that in the better spot.
Yeah, at MetLife Stadium.
So, point being, only 2 of these games, Miami on Monday Night Football and Houston for New Year's Eve, are on the road. The rest of these games for the Tennessee Titans are at home. That's a big break for them after how tough the schedule was for them to kind of shuffle through. And if you're going to find some things out about Will Levis, you need to see that incremental improvement. Hopkins talked a lot about yesterday, him getting more comfortable. You hear from DeAndre a little later on. But about how much more comfortable he's getting. Again, the offensive line, that combination of it. So left to right, Duncan, Skoronski, 2 rookies, Brewer, Brunskill, and yesterday the right tackle was Dylan Radins. They're not perfect. They're probably not even good. But so far it's been, the best offensive line, tied for the best offensive line performance of the season between how they were able to run the ball. It was still inconsistent, still shaky, and how they were able to hold up in protection, and also how, I know you guys were going crazy for the amount of screens that they were calling yesterday because your offensive line play is bad. They're trying to find ways to mitigate it. That's the way that they feel like they can do it best. It comes off as coaching scared, it feels like. But there are reasons that they would use to justify it. Whether they're right in those reasons or not is a different matter. They were right yesterday because they won. Is there a difference that jumps out to you between how they're able to perform at home versus what it is on the road?
Well, Henry's best games have come at home.
Yeah.
They have found the most success running the football at home. The only other game where they found that type of success statistically was in London, and that was helped by a couple big chunk plays. I don't know if we could look at that Ravens game and say the Titans were able to consistently find success on the ground.
I would not describe it as that.
Otherwise, they have avoided the best defensive fronts they've seen all year in the home games. The best front sevens they've played all year. Where have they struggled the most as a unit in protecting the quarterback?
Cleveland,
New Orleans,
Baltimore,
Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
These are good defenses.
So that has something to do with it for me. What would you say is their most quality win at home as far as strength of schedule?
Ooh, Chargers. I think so. If diminished Joe Burrow is I mean, he was trending in the right direction at that point.
He
but
flipped it on the week after that.
they're so lucky.
Yeah. I mean, they went on that 3-game winning streak, and the Bengals suddenly were back the week after they played the Titans. But he did not look like himself in that game against the Titans.
He was just getting mugged.
Yeah.
Right? The offensive line is still not good. They've invested in their offensive line, too, which is something to keep an eye on as Joe Burrow, at that price tag, starts to draw resources from other position groups just by nature of how much he's getting paid now.
I mean, by record, it's the Falcons who are 5-6. Bengals are also 5-6.
And it was a more, I mean, Chargers and Falcons were both closely contested games. Chargers are 4-7 now, too. Man, a game in which the Falcons may or may not have benched their quarterback is the most quality win for the Titans this year. I would still say by health that the Chargers are a better win because there was a lot of stuff going. I mean, I'm blanking on the defensive tackle for Atlanta who's tore his ACL. Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett missing that game, going down in that game early and missing the rest of it, and now the rest of the season matters for that. They were working with a bunch of backup offensive linemen. That matters in that. The quarterback situation, I think beating Justin Herbert, I don't know. The Chargers are such frauds, though. They're 30-31 with Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it's terrible. They have the same
Your
record.
boy, Brandon Staley. What's it going to take?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what more anybody needs to see from the Staley era. I mean, that feels like the most foregone conclusion in the NFL, right? As far as the future of a particular head coach. Maybe we're getting there with Belichick, too.
I think we're there with Belichick.
It somehow gets worse every week with the Patriots.
It's so bad. And it was Bailey Zappi again.
That's the thing. They've pulled Mac Jones in, 4 games this year? And that's the thing that is so tough about it is Zappi's not any better.
No.
Like, it looks the same, if not worse, when Zappi's in there. They are in this just nightmarish cycle, which you really hate to see it. You hate to see it for the New England Patriots. I say sarcastically. Really a shame that they're going through this. They're really paying for all those years.
Hey, you know what? Some teams have all the luck. The Patriots may have run out, but I saw Alabama win a miracle game the way that it just had no business. That has to infuriate you if you're a fan of SEC football outside of Alabama, or at least outside of Tuscaloosa, looking around being like, what the hell do you have to do to kill this thing? 4th and 31, out of here. The Eagles, a 60-yard field goal to send it into overtime that way, and Jalen Hurts to win it against the Bills, who are trying played a great game yesterday, a great offensive football game yesterday, back and forth. I don't know about the defense, but to see teams like the Eagles and Alabama catch breaks on top of being, maybe not in the case of Alabama, but for sure Philadelphia, the best team, if not the best team, the best record in football, catching some breaks there. So Patriots, the luck does seem to have petered out a little bit. So they had a good run.
In terms of talent, the Chargers win is the best win. But that's a 4-7 football team that all signs point to their coach being fired by the end of the year.
Yeah, so what's the best team? It's probably Atlanta.
It's Atlanta, who's at the top of the NFC South at 5-6.
Is that true?
That's true. They beat the Saints.
See, this is how I know we were premature in looking around at the AFC or at the NFC South and be like, maybe they're not all terrible.
They beat the Saints yesterday, 24-15. Saints dropped to 5-6, and the Tampa Bay Bucks lost to the Colts. Panthers are obviously well out of it, and the Bucks continue to. I think that was they're 4-7.
Nick Ewing in the comments on YouTube says Reich has been fired twice while Staley still has a job. That is wow. That is. You want to talk about context? They really, really need the context of that. That's crazy. People love Frank Reich in the league. And I just could, and listen, I understand that he's in a bad spot there, okay? And they knew what it was going in. But I could not believe some of the play calling from Frank Reich yesterday, somebody who is well regarded, rightfully so, as a good offensive football coach. That was wild. Anyway. Drama-filled weekend in college football. Rivalry week coming to a close with a lot of interesting results. We mentioned the Iron Bowl, the game itself between Ohio State and Michigan, definitely worth touching on. 2 and Tennessee getting the best of Vanderbilt yet again. 615-737-1045. We'll talk about college football coming up next.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
Crazy weekend in college football. Welcome back to the show. Mike Vrabel going to speak to the media at noon. We'll carry that press conference live for you. Titans won yesterday, 17-10 over the Panthers. Tennessee getting a huge win over Vanderbilt at Neyland Stadium to close out their regular season. Now looking for which bowl they'll land. Do you want one in particular? You feeling the Gator Bowl? How we feeling back there? How's the BVS?
Feeling the Gator Bowl this time around. Anything in Florida. Outback would be great. Gator is my second choice.
Who do you want in the Gator Bowl?
I've seen a lot of mocks that have Tennessee facing either NC State or North Carolina in the Gator Bowl. So, yeah,
Drake May would not play in that game.
Would be pretty surprised if Drake May played in that game. You never know. I can't speak to the type of kid Drake May is, and if he would want to, I'm sure he'd be getting advice not to. But Brock Bowers was getting advice not to come back, and I think his draft stock is somehow going up even more.
Yeah, Brock Bowers.
Back.
The people advising or trying to advise Brock Bowers with don't play the rest of the season. We have a whole segment dedicated to people like that. Yeah. We don't need to spend time on that on a Monday. Anyway, the week or weekend of college football was phenomenal. It lived up to the billing for sure. Ohio State, Michigan was great. Alabama, Auburn had the exciting finish. Washington State, Washington. I saw mostly highlights of that, but that looked absolutely electric.
Talk about the difference. The antithesis of Ryan Day in the Michigan game was Kalen DeBoer in the Washington State game.
What do I make of Ryan Day? I understand what his win percentage is, okay? Versus everybody else, and I understand what his winning percentage is against Michigan. I don't even know how to view this. If Jim Harbaugh, what is the value of Jim Harbaugh? There are so many questions about these two head coaches in this game where Sharon Moore somehow figures out a way to outfox Ryan Day in the way that this game is coming to pass. And I know Harbaugh is not regarded as this in-game aficionado, right? I think he's a great practice coach. I think he's a motivator. I think he's got a lot of weird stuff that he does that the kids get up for, and he's obviously a polarizing figure. But as an in-game asset, is he even that involved? I don't know that much about Jim Harbaugh's situation at Michigan. But all I know is that they keep winning games. They just won the game without him on the sideline. And the other guy, the guy that lost, is looking around and being like, pay no attention to me. It's just kind of ducking his head down. And I know they were in at the end, but that game was way closer than it felt like it should have been or could have been. And also the impact of the officiating on that interception that's maybe an interception, maybe not an interception that ended up playing a role in deciding that game.
Michigan touchdown.
It's a lot of stuff there that added to the drama that already existed about Ohio State, Michigan. But I honestly don't know what you do with either of those head coaches at this point. Because how much does Jim Harbaugh make to not necessarily be a factor on game day?
It's fascinating the way this thing is flipped between Michigan and Ohio State. Going from Jim Harbaugh finding success at Michigan for so many years. Harbaugh takes over in 2015, and Michigan routinely 10-win seasons, right? 10-win seasons in 15, in 16, in 18, and then takes a couple of years. COVID comes around, and then this 3-year run they're on starts in 2021. But for a while, Harbaugh was winning, but he had an Ohio State problem. Now it's completely flipped, where Ryan Day is winning, but he's got a Michigan problem. And his record is what it is. He's got, 7 losses as the head coach at Ohio State? He's 56-7.
Yeah, but
he doesn't lose to anybody?
3 straight.
3 straight against Michigan. The problem for Ryan Day is his 7 losses are basically the only games in those. What's 56 plus 7, Buck? 63.
63. I was there. I was getting there.
Of those 63 games Ryan Day has coached, the 7 games people care the most about, he's lost. Michigan 3 times, college football playoff. It is an interesting spot to be in, which is why I was of the mindset of Texas A&M should go all out, full court press for Ryan Day. And the pitch should be, you are 56-7, and there are people that want you fired. We've got everything you need. everything you need down here. You'll be appreciated.
NIL, you want it? We got it.
We got it. Talent, we got it. We are just trying to get out of an 8-4 funk and, yes, get to a place where we are winning national championships. But if you want a fresh start, and I don't know that Ryan Day would have been, I don't know how receptive he would have been to it. I don't know how much Ohio State would have tried to keep him. But that's what I would have wanted if I were a Texas A&M fan. Obviously, that's not how it panned out. But when I say Kalen DeBoer at Washington, the antithesis of Ryan Day, it's the end of the first half. You've got the ball in Michigan territory, and you're bleeding out the clock for a 52-yard field goal in freezing cold weather on the road for a kicker who's got a long of 47. Unsurprisingly, he missed it, and you go into halftime. Whereas Washington, in a tie game, less than 2 minutes left against a rival Washington State, is going for it inside their own 30-yard line on 4th and 1, and they're pulling a trick play out of the bag that fooled everybody, including the camera guy. That's the difference.
It's always good when they get the camera guy.
And Ryan Day's had this reputation as an aggressive coach. He's going to go for it on 4th down.
Not since last year. Not since last year when I saw them lose with better athletes. I don't want to say horses that dehumanizes the players.
You're right though. That has dissipated in his biggest moments. It seems like he has kind of gone into that shell, that conservative shell, in the biggest moments as the head coach at Ohio State. And so Ryan Day's winning a lot of games, but he's got a Michigan problem, and if he can't solve it, they're going to want him out of there sooner than later.
Just wait till John Gruden goes to Indiana and beats Ryan Day.
Take over the Big Ten. I'm so happy Groomers are back. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. Bruce Feldman reporting.
Look, Bruce Feldman. I had to double check that was Bruce. It was actually his account that he mentioned Indiana football. What the hell does Tom Allen have a $20 million buyout for? Somebody make it make sense. It's the worst job. Is it not the worst job in Power 5 football? Yes. The answer is, Vanderbilt or Indiana.
Yeah, there's some bad ones. There's some hard places to win in Power 5 football.
I've just named the two, though. Like major Power 5 football, I believe I've just named the two.
Yeah, so
the hardest job, not like the worst job, but the hardest job in a Power 5 conference. Maybe those two. I'm not differentiating well enough between worst and hardest.
When did he get that extension? I'm guessing it was after maybe the COVID year.
Yeah,
because they went 6-2.
They had a great year in the COVID year. They're like the bubble Lakers.
They won 8 games in 2019, lost to Tennessee in the Gator Bowl, went 6-2 in the COVID year. Robert Walsh says UConn's the worst job in Power 5.
Why is he just hiding? You have a microphone.
He can't control it from back here.
Well, that's ironic because I can't control my mic today either. Anyway.
But UConn is technically not Power 5.
We don't have to get into this. Alabama, down by 4, gets a touchdown that it needs on 4th and goal from not the 3, not the 5, 4th and goal from the 31. Less than a minute left to just take the spirit of I haven't talked to Dawn Davenport. I think I haven't heard from Dawn Davenport. I don't know if she's well. I do have a couple of Auburn fans in my life. Worth Campbell, if you're out there, please check in. I feel like Alabama, Nick Saban, in one moment, Jalen Milroe, legend, it just took the hope and everything that Auburn football has had in the last, and this is the beauty of the Iron Bowl, just took it and crushed it in front of them, squashed it like a soda can, an empty soda can afterwards, and just twisted and mangled it all up. 4th and goal from the 31. Are you bleeping kidding me?
Those are the type of moments that break you as a sports fan.
Break you.
Yeah. And last time Alabama was at Auburn had them dead to rights, right? The long drive at the end of the game, Auburn led the whole way. The Tank Bigsby not running out of bounds, or he did run out of bounds, and unnecessarily stopping the clock, and everything that led to Alabama winning eventually in overtime. And this year, 4th and 31, man. Oh, man, the heartbreak in that building.
Ricky in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube just says, sports suck so bad.
Sometimes, Ricky, they do. Auburn grad, Ricky says. Yes, I believe that. Yeah, I mean, that was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. One of the greatest moments in the history of that rivalry, where there are so many. But that will be on the Mount Rushmore of Iron Bowl moments. It'll be up there with the kick 6. It'll be up there with the cam back in 2010. Man.
Yes.
No, that's it.
Georgia keeping it within a score, basically within a touchdown, with 2 minutes remaining against Georgia Tech over the weekend. Ben Jones was talking a lot of smack, and obviously, anytime there's rivalry games, I know Derek was asked about the Iron Bowl yesterday at the podium. He just seemed exhausted. He's just like, we just won a football game against the Panthers. Like, let me go get my treatment and move on with my day, and you can ask me about the Iron Bowl on Wednesday, Jimmy, or something like that. But Georgia keeping it pretty close, 31-23 between Georgia and Georgia Tech at that point. And then Texas A&M. Texas A&M and LSU. This game in two of the, I would call them, I think I would argue that those are the two most interesting SEC football programs right now for what their expectation, interesting in terms of A&M's got a job opening.
Not anymore.
Well, yeah, Mike Elko, I guess, but we can get into that. I mean, do you want to talk about that now? That they're hiring Mike Elko after the whole Stoops thing? Will Levis is asked about it at the podium last night. He didn't know what was going on. The timeline of this, where we know that Jimbo has been out for some time now, and we have heard all that we've talked about Dion and stuff like that and all the other silliness that's floating around, whether you think it's silly or not. So then there's this report that comes out about Mark Stoops on Saturday, that Mark Stoops is getting ready to, reporting that he is taking the job, that the job is now Mark Stoops. And Lucas, I didn't see the reaction from Texas A&M fans on social media, and I don't know if Schiano Sunday is a fair comparison, because that was different. You had Clay Travis tweeting out the athletic director's phone number.
Well, people were marching on to the athletic facility.
It was a January 6th type of situation.
there were picket signs outside of Neyland Stadium. Literally. But yeah, Mark Stoops got kind of Schiano'd.
It's a little Schiano.
Yeah, this was a very...
Not a full-on insurrection, but a little Schiano'd.
A mini version of Schiano Sunday. Schiano Sunday was much more of a revolt, quite literally. And they're tying in his past with Penn State and painting the rock, and there's basically a rally happening on the front steps of Tennessee's athletic facility. And that was more of a statement of where the program was at the time, and the fans finally saying, all right, we're doing something about this. This isn't good enough. This, with Texas A&M, was almost strictly social media. But TexAg's reporting that basically they were honing in on Mark Stoops. And the
credible site for
absolutely.
TexAgs is one of the biggest outlets in the SEC.
Yeah, they do a great job. And the Texas A&M Board of Regents basically nixed it. They obviously had to put down approval on the Stoops hire, and how much of that was due to the outrage from the fan base, largely on social media, I don't know. I don't think any of us can speak to that. But they pull the rug out from under it, and they end up coming back to Mike Elko, who was pretty much the first name out of most people's mouths when talking about candidates for this job. So they kind of come back to Elko, and they'll move forward with that. Was the defensive coordinator there for a few years under Jimbo. Has done a great job with Duke. And Stoops got the outrage from the fan base. They seem pretty satisfied with Mike Elko, who ironically is far less accomplished as a head coach than Mark Stoops. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out.
This is a tweet from Mark Stoops at just after midnight, 2 minutes past midnight on Sunday morning. I know there's been much speculation about me and my job situation the last couple of days. It's true. I was contacted about a potential opportunity this weekend, but after celebrating a big win against our rivals with players I love like family, I knew in my heart I couldn't leave the University of Kentucky right now. I have a great job at a place I love, and I get to work with the best administration and greatest fan base in college football right where I'm at. I'm excited to say I'm a Wildcat. Okay. Do you think it was... I'm so fascinated. I would love to be in one of these, Board of Regents rooms where these things get decided, just to see what the conversation is like. Billy Bob XYZ on Twitter just told us we suck and we're idiots for hiring Mark Stoops. Do we need to nix it? Do we hit the button? Do we hit the giant red button? Do we nuke the plan?
I don't know if
Schiano it?
I don't know if we're going to get a Freedom of Information Act dump the way we did for Schiano Sunday with emails and texts with John Curry and
just so
reporters.
Good.
it won't get to that level, but
there can't ever be another moment like that in time. They're just with all the confluence of events that happened around that. That just nothing is going to top Schiano Sunday.
But I'm really conflicted on where I stand here if I try to put myself in the shoes of a Texas A&M fan. Would I want Mark Stoops, who has definitely hit a ceiling at Kentucky, but that's okay. 10 wins as a ceiling at Kentucky is not something that's been done in the modern era of Kentucky football. He's done an incredible job with that program, multiple 10-win seasons. Or Mike Elko, who has the familiarity with the program, has the recruiting ties from being the defensive coordinator, has done an incredible job with Duke. They went 9-4 last year, 7-5 this year. You consider they lost their starting quarterback, who Riley Leonard had a fantastic start to the season when they beat Clemson in the season opener. But I'm very conflicted here on what I think would be a better hire for Texas A&M. Very conflicted. And kind of surprised at how much anger and outrage there was over the idea of a Stoops hiring and how universally accepted the Elko hiring seems to be.
What is the difference to them between Duke and Kentucky is all I'm trying to figure out, as a football program. Why is Stoops not good enough for Kentucky, but Mike Elko at Duke? And he's done a good job.
Did a great job.
Done a good job.
It's a really hard place. We talk about tough Power 5 jobs. That's a really hard place to win.
Okay, well, we can't put Duke in the same conversation as the two that we were talking about earlier. That's a different kind of damned.
As you can't put Duke in the same as Indiana or Vanderbilt?
No.
How come?
Duke has had football success.
They've had some football success. Vanderbilt's had football success.
Sure. Indiana has not. Vanderbilt has had more recent football success than Indiana football has had recent success.
But I don't know. The idea of Mark Jameson says on the F&M Bank chat, Stoops with the resources of Texas A&M would really prosper. I think I tend to agree with that.
I have to think so. I mean, it's always a curious conversation, right? Because, I've heard, for those of you who watch sports television on ESPN, Tony Kornheiser talk about this before. You remember Tony Kornheiser in the Monday Night Football booth? Where, Tony Kornheiser, one of the most prominent people in sports, kept getting promoted, got promoted to the highest of heights, right? It's the Monday Night Football booth. That's primetime television. That's where you want to be if you're in our industry in some form or fashion. And he's there to do comedic relief, and it doesn't work. Right? Because there are some people that want the Manning cast, and there's a lot of people who really do not. So they were trying some Manning cast stuff with Kornheiser a long time ago, and it didn't work. And Tony's talked about the idea of getting promoted to the point of failure, right? Where you keep getting promoted, you keep getting these opportunities, and finally you just get above your skis at some point. And, it's worked at a certain level for a certain amount of time, and you peak. And whether you recognize the peak coming and you're able to, handle the situation before you get canned, or somebody says, no, thank you for your service, but this is not working out. I don't know what category I'd place Mark Stoops in, because he's succeeding in there are definitely raised expectations at Kentucky, but I still think of Kentucky football and the Kentucky football program as less than. Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore because they're not Joker Phillips or anything like that.
Mark Stoops is in one of the best situations in all of college football.
Right. They're not going to run him out.
Right. They're not going to run that guy out. They're going to give him a parade down State Street. Yeah. The floor at Kentucky under Mark Stoops is 7-5, it would seem. 7-6, right? 6-6 with a bowl win like it was last year. Or no, they lost the bowl game last year, excuse me. But so they went 7-5 with the bowl loss. But it seems like that 7-5 mark is kind of the floor for Mark Stoops. Kentucky's never been able to say that. They just haven't. So Kentucky would be in no position to say, we want better, because Mark Stoops seemingly is achieving everything there is to be achieved with Kentucky football. So I would be fascinated to see what he could do with the resources of a Texas A&M. Clearly, A&M fans were not interested in that possibility.
615-737-1045 is the number. You're going to hear from DeAndre Hopkins as we pivot back to the Titans. Mike Vrabel is going to give a press conference at noon. Titans players currently speaking right now. Nick Westbrook-Akina is at the podium, but we'll wait around for the head coach. Meanwhile, I caught up with DeAndre Hopkins in the locker room and asked him about Will Levis and the progress that he's making. And you'll hear that exchange coming up next. Hey, so we have pretty big breaking local news. You want to give me some breaking news sounder back there?
Breaking sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
So, Middle Tennessee, MTSU just put out a release. Middle Tennessee Director of Athletics Chris Massaro announced today that Rick Stockstill has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Blue Raider football program. 18 seasons on the job. He was hired back in 2005. Here's the quote. "This is one of the most difficult days in my tenure, but one I feel is necessary in our aspiration to compete and win championships," said Massaro. "I appreciate everything Rick, his wife Sarah, and their family have done the last 18 years for MTSU athletics, our football program, and more importantly, our student athletes. Because of his leadership, our student athletes have performed at a high level in the classroom, have dedicated time and energy to supporting our community, and have given us countless hours of dedication to being successful on the football field. I want to thank Coach Stockstill for his professionalism, character, and dedication, and wish him well in his future endeavors." And they add, "A national search for a new head coach will commence immediately."
That's big news.
That's huge local news.
He's been an institution there since 2006.
They're 4-8 this year. And, Lucas, you pointed out that they haven't done much since the upset of Miami beyond keep it competitive with this year's Missouri team.
Yeah, 8-5 last season, including that upset win at Miami. They've had a losing record since that game, but Rick Stockstill is just one of those coaches that he's been in a place for so long. He's had these, he's had 4-win seasons mixed in, had one in 2019, 3-6 in 2020, and then 7-6 and 8-5. He's always bounced back with the 7 to 8 win type of season, but MTSU clearly wants more.
Well, they will perhaps get more in their national search for a new head coach down the road in Murfreesboro.
So we bring in our MTSU correspondent, Robert Walsh.
Lucas, were you aware that Buck is a liar?
Expand.
Why are you here, other than to clean up my mess?
What do you mean? I've already cleaned up your mess, and here I am to make another one. So last night, Lucas, I was informed of something that is trivial and I think needs to be shared with the audience. And I was threatened with libel and slander if I were to come forward with this, but none of those things matter to me. My reputation is already in the muck.
Do you mean to say that you were intimidated, that you were made to feel like you couldn't come forward with your information? Who would be intimidating you? And why now do you feel that still won't happen to you? Because you're in a very vulnerable position with your pink microphone.
I am brazen with confidence when I come forward with this. Lucas, one of my least favorite things that Buck does is, whenever we have something in our own personal lives, he brings it forward without our consent. He loves to bring it on air and show it to the audience. So I'm going to do the same thing. Apparently, Lucas, you have given Buck advice about bringing another feline into his house.
Have I?
He said that you have told him to not do that. But Buck does not listen to you, nor does he listen to me.
It's a slippery slope, is what I've said.
Because once you have one, you have two. And Buck started with 2, so now he has to get 4. But I was informed last night that there is a new creature living in Buck's house. It is not me. It is a new cat named Moonbeam.
What?
Buck, would you like to expand how you are a thrice cat father? Don't look at me like that. You do this to us all the time. You do this all the time and throw us under the bus.
Listen to me. All right. I went plant shopping the other day. There's a plant shop on Wedgwood, Houston. It's a great spot. It's called Hoop House. No free ads. But unfortunately, about this plant shop, all right, we tease DeAndre Hopkins here. People have to be screaming at us. They're tiny little kittens, street kittens that they foster at the plant shop. All right. And it's around the holidays, so all the kittens are gone, except for this one that keeps coming up to me while I'm trying to get my grow lights and my plant food. All right. It's about 7 pounds. It's a year old, and its name's Moonbeam. Okay?
Don't say it like that. You said it so much cuter last night. Her name is Moonbeam.
I did not say it that way.
It's Moonbeam, a beam of moon.
I'm so mad.
So Buck tells me, I hear the cat in the background going, row, row. And he's explaining to me how he is fostering this cat. And I said, no, you have adopted this cat. Yeah. That cat is not leaving your
house. They said she's the only one left. She had 7 kittens. They all got adopted. Here she is. and she's like following me around the store.
Oh.
And I know the consequences of my actions are going to be bad because like there is no way that this is not just like dropping a nuke basically into my home environment right now. Like nothing good comes of this, especially with the schedule that we've gotten. Like I know I'm going to be gone all day on Sunday. Like it's a disaster waiting to happen. I did it anyway. There's another cat in the house.
So now Buck is running a halfway house for wayward mother cats. All of her kittens got adopted. She was left on the side of the road like a piece of garbage.
I feel bad.
And Buck picked her up and brought. I think it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
She is a beautiful cat, and Buck did not want that shared with anybody.
I did not. I don't want people knowing that I have 3.
I appreciate you not throwing me under the bus with libel and slander.
I was going to accuse him of supporting the little Chiefs fan with the black face yesterday.
I wasn't supporting it.
I said I was going to accuse you of it. I didn't say it was true.
I just said
I didn't say it was true. I said in my witness intimidation tactics that I would put you in the same league as the Chiefs fan with the black face if you wanted to out me. I will still do that. I still have this microphone at my disposal. Look at you laughing because you're scared and you don't know what to do.
Listen, that little boy didn't paint his own face. His mom and daddy did that. Be mad at the mom and daddy, not that little boy with a headdress. Where do little boys go to buy headdresses at? He don't know. He didn't even drive to that game. And we're ready to say, that little boy's wearing blackface. That little boy is a little boy.
Why are you supporting this? Stop.
I'm not supporting him. I'm saying let's be mad at the parents.
You're talking yourself into a bad position.
Don't be mad at the kid. Be mad at the parents.
Robert tried to out me, and now he's supporting blackface.
No, don't clip that.
Shadows.
I swear I don't support it.
Go to break.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans came back to Nissan Stadium and got back in the win column on Sunday, a 17-10 final over the Carolina Panthers. Derrick Henry with 2 touchdowns. He had 18 carries for 76 yards. The Titans allowing just 1 sack on the day and getting home to sack Carolina quarterback Bryce Young 4 times.
Young play fake, deep drop, looking, hit, sack! Oh my goodness! Big Jeff with a crusher!
Danico Autry had 2 sacks as well. The loss dropped Carolina to 1-10 on the season. This morning, Ian Rappaport reported that Panthers head coach Frank Reich has been fired before the end of his first season. The Titans improved to 4-7. Mike Vrabel meeting with the media here in just a couple of moments. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. In local college football news, Pete Thamel reporting that MTSU has fired head football coach Rick Stockstill, who's been the head coach of the Blue Raiders since 2006. Also around college football, Texas A&M has hired Duke head coach Mike Elko as the next head coach of the Aggies, replacing Jimbo Fisher. Mississippi State announced the hiring of Oklahoma offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby as the next head coach in Starkville, replacing the fired Zach Arnett. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour off and rolling. Mike Vrabel's at the podium after the Titans won a game. We go now live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
Jalen held up first start.
Well, I think it was okay. I mean, I think that there were some good snaps. I think early, got powered and needs to replace his hands, and he settled down, and I thought it did a nice job and had some good snaps. I think that he was conscious. As we look at Derrick maybe cutting back and a guy breaking the framework of his body, and Jalen letting him go and not just tugging him right there at the point of attack is something that we try to talk to those guys about, where the offensive linemen may not know, they don't know where the running back is, and they're just trying to block him and stay square and get some movement, and then as the back decides to to make his cut wherever they're going, that sometimes these guys shed, and you find a guy that there's some restriction at the point of attack, and I saw that Jalen let the guy go, and Derrick was able to get the corner and gain 12 or 15 yards. Would have liked to had a better block on the throw to Chig, but Will made a great throw with pressure, and Chig helped Will out. So that's kind of how it goes sometimes. But I thought it was okay for his first extended action.
About how much of the time did you leave him single blocked in one-on-one situations yesterday, especially in pass pro?
I mean, a lot of that is, based on, the third down distance, protection. I don't have a certain percentage. It's based on, formation and, some of the first and second down stuff. And, there were some good pockets, on some of the first and second down stuff, which, maybe a few weeks earlier that had been, where some of the breakdown had occurred on some of our play action game. But there were some good pockets that we were able to throw the football from, and then there was some, early on, the third down they brought 5 guys, and Will didn't have much time to do much.
Scoring-wise, you guys are at home 24 points, on the road is like 11. Is there anything that you could put your finger on to say like why it's so different offensively?
I don't want to sit here and say that we've played good defenses, but I know that that's probably part of it. We have, I think, played good defenses. You look at where the Saints were week 1, and I felt like that was a good defense, and Pittsburgh on the road, see the type of defense that they play, and that's probably being realistic. We know that we have to be better. Right now we're focused on, being better at home because that's where our next game is. And then, attacking those things and just the details and just how critical just a few things are when you're on the road and the noise and, getting off on the snap count and all those different things that attribute to that. But right now our focus is, preparing to win a division game at home.
How real is that energy from the crowd that you guys experience?
Yeah, when we play hard and we play well and we play complimentary, I thought that there was, great energy. And I thought our, defensively, the thing, probably the most proud of and excited about was, that we gave up some plays or we gave up a third down penalty or conversion or quarterback scramble and it came back and there was a long drive that had penalties on it that we held them to a field goal and then responded after the second half scoring drive and then kind of kept battling. We got the turnover and, some really good opportunities and cool things in there. We just try to put it together for 60 minutes.
Ardon was talking about how meaningful it was for him to see Will break it down in the huddle before the game. When you see that or some of the other steps Will's taken to be a leader as a rookie, just what does it mean to you to see him take those steps?
Well, we all know how important the quarterback position is in this league and in football, and part of that is, performance based. But I think there's a leadership element to it that has to go on. That everybody has to see that player's invested and that player's, performing and cares, as much if not more than everybody else.
Jeffrey chases Bryce Young from sideline to sideline, and then stays on the field to rush the passer. The very next play. Is that something you show as kind of a teaching moment for your team? What the effort is all about?
That's going to be, that's one of them. Those examples are, there's quite a few of them. And I think that, it was every week is a challenge, and Bryce did a nice job. I thought, we factored in the middle of the pocket yesterday, and we'll have to continue to try to contain those. Those quarterbacks that can scramble. But, Jeffrey works hard at his conditioning. He works hard to play a lot of snaps for us and to help us impact the game.
What's coaching, teaching been like with Chig, I guess, throughout the season as he's kind of tried to develop consistency, and how much you hope, yesterday is maybe gives him a little bit of confidence to keep playing well?
Well, I love, I love Chig's energy, love what he can do. I've continued to find ways to get him the ball and some of the details, and he did a very nice job of slipping out of there yesterday. He was, good on the check down, getting out of bounds, knowing that, how he needed to get out of bounds. Got in there and did a nice job on a steal block. We just couldn't get the safety, and so he's again fantastic to work with, fun to work with, and. We'll continue to find ways to have him help us in the run game and in the pass game.
How did you go for it on the early fourth down there, and maybe that first drive in general? How important was it to kind of overcome a few different obstacles there on that drive? I guess second drive.
Yeah, I thought it was, just felt good about the call. Wanted to try to get it off the call sheet. Been on there for a little bit, so just felt like we needed to get going and needed a spark there, and guys converted, and then we're able to, like you said, go on and lead that to points. That's the most important thing. Whether you fake a punt or you go for it on fourth down and you convert it, you gotta finish it off.
Tajay, in the last month, 3.5 yards a carry, 5.4 a catch. You kind of assess where he is right now as compared to where he's been when he's kind of brought more explosive play?
Yeah, I think that's just probably based on opportunity. We got to, continue to find ways to get him some opportunities. It's 3rd and 12 late in the game. We could try to flip a screen out to him, just, take care of the football, and, 3rd and 5, we're going to try to win the game. I think 3rd and 12, you're just trying to make sure that, somebody doesn't, So, again, I think a lot of that's opportunity. Saw him, break the tackle there on the corner and, get some yards. And then I think it's just about opportunity.
You might tell him to get down, take a knee on that spike at the end of the half, or is that just his instinct? Is that how he's coached, or is that his instincts just to kind of take it?
Just stop. You're going to be out. You're going to be off the line of scrimmage, and save your legs and not worry about running down there. You're legal. Just it kind of. Again, I thought that was very well executed. I'm excited that we were able to put that on tape. And for everybody, for the defense to get a stop, for us to go down there offensively and get the ball out of bounds, and then they called timeout, changed the defense. We were able to get Nick down to the 35. Everybody was running. Brew got the ball, got the spot. Tajay just figured might as well just stop and be legal and not worry about anything else. So I thought that was a very impressive play.
Mike, there's nothing better than game reps for rookies. How do you feel like Will's done so far through 5 weeks in regards to taking what he learned from one Sunday into the following week?
Well, I think he continues to improve. I think there's some snaps. I think we, decisions and being able to see some things that come open or pop. And but I felt like, early in the game, pretty efficient and, got the ball out of his hand and, found some matchups that he liked. I thought that, got us going early there with Hop and, the patience there to wait him out and the accuracy. Just making sure that we're not putting the ball in harm's way. A couple layered throws. I'd like to see a better football to Tajay. We can't leave that much air underneath it and put him in harm and put the ball in harm.
You talk about complimentary football. Ryan Stonehouse set an NFL record last year, but has he been consistently better this year with where he places the ball and specifically kind of those short yardage inside the 10?
I think his ability to mix it up. I think he's worked on more pitches, some different pitches, high with some spin, hook, directional, and then when he's got to, bring a driver out and bang it, he's got that still in his bag. So, I thought special teams was a little closer to what we expect. It wasn't perfect. That was a good unit. They were averaging 34 yards a kickoff return. We know late in the season the ball's going to be in play. So that was something that was a focal point. We were pretty good on our punt coverage. I was excited about the return that we had. Unfortunately, AK just got a little. Obviously supposed to stay on that, upfield shoulder, and the guy 42 kind of crossed his face, and we tugged him. But it would have been cool to have that return. We thought we had a little bit more space. We had the one kickoff return, but the other one we just weren't quite good enough. I thought special teams wise, that was more along the lines of what we were looking like covering kickoffs for most of the day.
5 penalties in the secondary yesterday. Were you seeing common threads? Is it more of a technique thing that you're seeing, or how do you evaluate that?
You can't grab the guy or, at the top of the route and grab him. There was some good examples of guys being square. But you also, you can't grab them, and, whether we think they are or not, they see it, Thought probably one out of those were probably I disagreed with, but that's how it goes.
The Fulton one?
What's that?
Was that the Fulton one?
No, probably the one SMB one on Thielen, but two-step process. I don't know if he looked back and saw the ball get thrown over here. I'm not sure.
If you guys can take care of
Which the Fulton one? No, he tackled. He was bear hugging the tight end.
If you can take care of business with the Colts this weekend, do you feel like that gets you back in the fight, or is it still too early to say that?
Yeah, we're looking to fight every week. I think for us to look that far in advance doesn't. We got to focus on this week. We got to focus on health here, recovery, improvement. These little details, these techniques that I know that we can be better at. That we have to.
You feel like you can put the same offensive line on the field for 2 weeks in a row after this week? And how much of an advancement is that for you guys to be able to do that?
Again, I haven't met with Todd. I just, guys, going for different tests, seeing the doctors, and we'll have 8 guys ready to go. ready to execute the game plan, and we'll see where that is moving forward.
You regularly compliment Danico. Impressed how he just continues to just show
Got a lot
up
of pride. I got a lot of respect for Danico. I just his ascension from a college player to undrafted, and being going to Indy and then coming here and really maintaining that level of performance. Got a lot of respect for him. It means a lot to him. So enjoyed coaching him, enjoyed being around him, and certainly factored yesterday. Was a large part of our performance.
How's the inside linebacker rotation there with Gibbons and Rice? How's that? Is that predetermined which guys are going to play which series, or is it just kind of a feel thing as you go through the game?
I think it's tried to be predetermined and give them, a couple of series each half, whether that be for Gibby or Aziz, and kind of rotate through and, then kind of see where it goes.
I don't know what the word is. Frustrating. I guess first 3 drives, second half, you start off with kind of a big chunk play and weren't able to capitalize on it. Frustrating, disappointing, I guess, there.
Yeah, we just have to, some of them are penalties, some of them are just mistakes, or whether we don't get a guy blocked, or that's what's frustrating. You hit a 20-some yard gain, hit a 15-yarder, and then 3rd and 3 false start, or just don't have very effective plays following that up. Like, it's got to be okay, on to the next one. Let's get into a drive, let's get into a rhythm, great drive starter, and then just not stall.
Worry about 1 week at a time, but how much can you point to, I guess, last year, and how much the division changed from this point kind of on to show your guys that there is still a lot of football in front of you and a lot of things that can change?
Yeah, I think there's probably some of that, but we also got to sit there and you got to ride, we got to ride our horse, and we got to stay focused on us and just winning. And then that kind of takes care of everything else. And the motivation should be high to win and continue to improve.
Did you get a chance to talk to Frank much yesterday?
You're listening to Titans head coach Mike Vrabel after the Titans beat the Panthers yesterday.
So, need to win in this league to keep your job?
Yeah, I talked to Frank. I've known Frank for a few years, got a lot of respect for him. I think every situation is different. I don't know, why the decision was made. They made a decision, but a lot of respect for Frank, who he is as a person, and who he is as a football coach, and it's we know what we signed up for.
Middle Tennessee moved on from Stockstill today after 18 years. I know he's been around here a bunch with KBs. Is he a guy you got to know well at all?
Just a little bit. Just those coaches around the area, that come for OTAs and visit with us, and it's made a quite of impact here in Middle Tennessee and in coaching football. So, hopefully, we'll see him more going forward, and based on where he goes on his next job. But it's always welcome here to come and watch practice.
Nick and Ardon, when they were up here, used the exact phrase, "We owe them," meaning the Colts. Is that just kind of a consensus within the locker room? Was that a message you gave them yesterday or this morning? And can you tap into that at all this week as you prepare?
No, I don't think I can remember saying that we owe them. We have to come back and win a game in the division at home in Indy, against Indy. So, yeah, I don't see there being, anything owed. Like, they beat us. We didn't make enough plays. They, played better than we did that day, and there'll be some things that we'll have to fix. And I'm confident that we'll be ready and we'll be prepared and we'll play hard.
In protocol, you hopeful that he can take another step in getting back on the
I'm
field?
hopeful for a lot of things, Jim, but I'll just wait, and see whenever the player, in this particular case, Traylon, clears the protocol. Then we'll practice with him. No different than if that was, anybody else or hopeful that we get all our players back that aren't playing right now. So whatever that is, that's what it'll be. And that's all I can say just because that's how you're supposed to operate within the protocol.
Sean come out of it all right?
Yeah, I would again, I want to reserve the full diagnosis until I've had a chance to talk to Todd, but everything coming out of that game last night or yesterday afternoon was positive as far as how he was able to make it through.
Noticed you chatting with Trace Atkins before the game. You spent much time around him? Did you realize he's that big, and you think he's a football fan?
Well, I know he's a football fan. He is. He's a good man. I've had a chance to meet him before. Good old deep voice, and yeah, he's a lunch pail guy. So, I didn't even dawn on me that he was singing the national anthem until I walked out there. So, had a chance to catch up with him.
Thank you, Mike.
That's Mike Vrabel. Lunch pail guy, Trace Adkins. Can he play left tackle? 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll react and talk about the Titans' offensive approach yesterday coming up next. Welcome back to the show. So before Bert came in here and tried to out me, jerk. Actually, Bert bailed me out in a big way, cleaning up a mess in here for me. We were going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis and offensive. What do I want to call that yesterday? An offensive performance? It wasn't quite a performance. They did something. They scored 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry continues to pass names on the all-time leading rushing touchdown list, moving into 17th place yesterday. Passed Marshawn Lynch and has now over 9,000 yards in his esteemed career. It's the only thing that's separating Derrick from being a lock in the Hall of Fame, like playoff winning of consequence, because he's only got the 2 playoff wins to his name, right? He's got the wild card in New England. He's got at Baltimore. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Ravens in 2021 and then lost to the Bengals. No, I'm sorry. Lost to the Ravens in 20, lost to the Bengals in 21, and then last year missed the postseason.
I feel like getting to 10K on his career and one more playoff run, no matter,
run
with the Titans or whoever else.
Okay.
Would probably solidify him, right? And I feel like he should get credit for doing that in this era of football. I mean,
but he needs to win more in the playoffs, is what you're saying, which is what I'm saying.
I think he gets to 10K, he should be a candidate to get in, no matter what. But I do think another playoff run, an AFC Championship run, whoever it's with,
sure,
NFC whoever it's with,
yeah,
would have.
What
to
did
get
you
in
do
there.
What was that? Titans fans just got pissed at you.
Like,
NFC Championship.
What's the biggest reason you think Eddie's not in? Eddie George,
What a great question.
I mean, how many running backs have hit 10K in their career? 30 in the NFL?
I'll pull up the list.
I think the knock on Eddie has always been his average.
He's not an efficient player across the course of his career. Eddie George has longevity. He does have big moments in the postseason, but
played in a Super Bowl, averaged 3.6 yards per carry. That's the thing that is most commonly used against Eddie, in my mind, when it comes to a Hall of Fame case. Derrick Henry averages 4.8 yards per carry in his career and, is on pace to hit 10,000.
I mean, was he ever considered the top running back in his time, Eddie? Derrick Henry has been thought of as the best running back, pure running back. Now, you can talk about weapon and versatility and stuff like that, and those would be marks against Derrick. But if we're talking about running backs, Derrick Henry has been regarded as the best running back in football every year other than the one that he's been hurt since he became a full-time starter in 2019.
If Derrick doesn't get in, I feel like we're going to look back at that 2021 season where he got hurt about what could have been.
Sure.
Where you look at the pace that he was on, 937 yards in 8 games. He was on pace to obliterate another 2,000-yard season. And to do it back like that would have to put him in. Would have to.
So, Eric Dickerson, Terrell Davis, who I know people have gone back and forth with on Terrell Davis, Tony Dorsett, Jerome Bettis, Earl Campbell. Does Eddie George fit in the category of those? I mean, we don't need to debate this right now. I got sidetracked. I went down a rabbit hole on Reddit looking at numbers for Eddie George. Long story short, offense yesterday by the Titans, good in the first half, damn near impossible to come by in the second half. 2 of 11 on third down, 18.2% conversion rate. It was ghastly, right? So they won a game against the worst team in football, but they're far from perfect. There are some reasons to be optimistic. Jalen Duncan had a decent showing. Will Levis missed some opportunities, but didn't cost them. Now, maybe that's just because defenders dropped the ball, but didn't cost them. And the offensive line on the day wasn't the worst that it's been. Levis had some inaccuracies. And in fact, I want you to hear from DeAndre Hopkins about Will Levis, because I asked him last night, where are you seeing the improvements? He's now started 5 games, Will Levis. Where are you seeing the improvements in his game? And this was Hopkins in the locker room yesterday.
Just being more relaxed back there in the pocket. Obviously, there were some throws. I'm gonna hold him to a high standard, and tell him, would tell any quarterback, some throws out there that I wish he could have made, but he definitely made some some great throws as well. And I think, Will can be a great quarterback. So, I always try to hold him to a high regard. But I think, the difference is just, him being back there in the pocket and just being relaxed and, getting to feel this offense a little bit better.
So comfort level, and he says, like I would any quarterback, I'm going to tell him when there are some throws that I wish that he could have made. I'm going to hold him to a high standard. Hopkins is a perfect player for the situation that they're currently in. Let me explain. What do guys like A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs have in common? Other than being, two of the best wide receivers in football.
Yeah, one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Sure. But as personalities, they are very, very demonstrative, right? Now, I'm not saying that Hopkins isn't, but you've seen A.J. Brown get visibly upset on the sidelines and getting in the face of Jalen Hurts and, having to be talked down by Devontae Smith. You've seen Stephon Diggs have moments. They're very emotive, right? They're passionate. There's nothing wrong with that. But they are a different kind. They display that in different ways. Hopkins maybe is not in that same class as the best wide receiver. He is still one of the best wide receivers in football. Let me clarify. Is he A.J. Brown right now? Is he Stephon Diggs right now? Maybe not, but there's still a lot there. His demeanor, where he is, direct with people. He's very direct with people. You see him working the officials all the time. You see him talk about how much he appreciates his relationship with Steve Smith and Mike Vrabel because they are the only people. There are few people who can be that kind, who are willing to be that kind of direct with him. But he's not overwhelming, overly demonstrative in a way that might make a rookie quarterback feel the need to press to get DeAndre Hopkins the ball. Now, maybe he should be anyway, right? You want the ball, you want DeAndre Hopkins targeted, of course. But I think where Hopkins was interviewed this offseason, talking about a rookie quarterback, a first-year quarterback wasn't something that he necessarily had in mind for his next landing spot, that DeAndre Hopkins is coming in here and managing the situation as he has so many others before it, right? DeAndre Hopkins has played with Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, but he's also played with Tom Savage and all kinds of other, Davis Mills, all kinds of other broken pieces and parts at quarterback that the Houston Texans and Arizona Cardinals have trotted out there across his career. He's done this a lot with a lot of different dudes and a lot of them subpar. So while it might not have been the situation that he envisioned prior to signing here this season, he really is kind of the perfect player to help Will Levis bridge this gap and help the Titans kind of get Will Levis up to speed as you see those improvements showing through. At least I think. And I think that answer from DeAndre Hopkins really articulates that well.
Of all the rookie quarterbacks this year, I mean, is that one of the better sounding boards as far as receivers go? Bryce Young has Adam Thielen, who is utilized. He's basically the only offensive threat they have this year.
Not yesterday. Did you see Thielen?
They shut him down. They shut him down.
They
yesterday.
completely took away Adam Thielen. Let me double check the numbers because
he had one catch for 2 yards on 3 targets. They completely took him away. Jonathan Mingo led them in receiving.
It's crazy.
But I mean, who's the most experienced receiver in Houston? Robert Woods.
Yes.
I mean, they're doing a lot.
Undoubtedly. Tank Dell is his guy.
Yeah.
But Woods is the guy to kind of help see them through, for sure.
Nico Collins, younger player as well. And in Indianapolis, I know Richardson's out for the season, but Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
So it's a good option.
It's a great option.
On and off the field.
It's the best option of any, of any of the players. Maybe, you make the case for maybe Calvin Ridley right now. I don't know. I would like to see it kind of continue.
Well, just talking about the rookie quarterbacks, where that's a lot more important.
Sure, but I'm talking about because Lawrence is a veteran. He's in year 3.
Player.
But I just think in terms of options that any of those guys have, I'd take DeAndre Hopkins over any of them. Even Calvin Ridley at this stage of their careers, because dependability. The thing that's not dependable about the Titans is the offensive line. I have no questions in DeAndre Hopkins' dependability. And that's something that they've been desperately. Thielen is such a resource for Bryce Young, 1, because nobody else is, and 2, because Bryce Young knows that he can trust him. Knows he's going to find a way to make a play, knows he's going to find a hole in the zone, knows he's going to find ways to come open after he might have initially been covered up if they can extend the play. And God knows Bryce Young tried his damnedest to extend plays yesterday, and it wasn't there for him. So I would agree with that assessment, that Hopkins is the best rookie quarterback resource of any of the rookie quarterbacks going right now. And that, that he's on a 2-year deal, I think is really notable because, we'll see how long he can physically sustain. It's tougher for wide receivers, I think, almost more than any other position, really, it feels like, to kind of age that way. But we've talked about this before. He has the unique ability to do this. And I think that Will Levis is going to be, I know that Will Levis is grateful to have him here to kind of help him through this. I think it's why Will Levis continues to have as much confidence as he does. God knows there's not a lot else to be confident in the situation. And he's a naturally confident person, right? You have to be as a professional athlete, as a Division I quarterback. You have to be able to carry yourself with a certain degree of confidence. So I don't want to assign too much. But, you're looking around. How much else would you trust out there beyond Hopkins?
And who has more experience with being patient with a quarterback than DeAndre Hopkins?
Yes.
The amount of guys that D-Hop has had to help come along in his career.
And Tom Pelissero is reporting the 2 Indianapolis defensive backs have been suspended for gambling.
You said it. I know you said it. I'm just reiterating it. I'm just reiterating it because it is
pretty close.
It is because think about the difference versus trying to think of. Who was the other big name? Was there any other big name wide receiver on the market this past year other than D-Hop?
No, it was Jacoby Myers, wasn't it?
But think about if you're bringing in a guy like a Ridley, like a Calvin Ridley, who his entire career, wherever he's been, Atlanta, franchise quarterback, Matt Ryan, MVP, and now number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. The difference in bringing a guy like Ridley in versus a guy like D-Hop, that all D-Hop has ever done
is slop,
is have to help quarterbacks like Tom Savage and Davis Mills and whoever was playing when Kyler Murray went down last year. Colt McCoy was a veteran, but so the experience helps with that too.
Nick Ewing in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube, where you can interact. Also the phones. Last call for phone call says, didn't D-Hop come to play with Henry and Tannehill? Tannehill will be gone, and if Henry isn't back, does D-Hop want to leave too? I don't know the answer to that. He was asked about, Hopkins was asked about whether he would want Derrick Henry back next year or not, and basically just said, it's not my decision to make. Derrick's obviously a big reason why I signed here, not just because of the player he is, but because he's a friend. And, just kind of deferred to management. But, I don't know. I think if he's got a promising rookie court, I think he wants to compete, and I think he wants to make money. I think those things matter, and you can figure out how much one versus the other matters more. Anyway, last call for phone calls. Updates and polls coming up next. Last call for phone calls if you got them. 615-737-1045 is the number. Toy Fields next week. If you're out doing some shopping, if it's Cyber Monday, right? Black Friday sale still going on. We have a Black Friday sale for the Steeplechase tickets. I know May 11th seems like a long time away, but the lowest possible price that you'll get for all-inclusive food, booze, great tailgate setup. Kenny Smoove and I from 92Q are going to be hosting. It's going to be electric out there. You never know who's going to pop up. So make sure you check that out. And while you're out shopping, if you feel like participating in Toy Field for a good cause, whether that's a present for a senior or a toy gift for a child, you can bring that to Nissan Stadium next Tuesday, where all 4 shows and all the stations in the Cumulus Nashville building, right? Isn't everybody out there like TN and 103.3 and everybody else? Isn't everybody doing their shows from Toy Field?
I don't know that everybody is broadcasting from Toy Field, but yes, it is quite a presence that we have over there, and we are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Well, let me not speak out of turn. We will at least be there, and I know everybody else will be contributing in some form or fashion in their own way. So that'll be cool. Let's see. Goody is in, it says Rochester, but I assume that means Rochester.
It does, Buck. I got a couple of things. So, with you spouting off all these Derrick Henry records, do you think Deion Lewis is going to be the next guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame? Also, sorry to hear about your $20.5 million buyout for your coach at Indiana after losing to Purdue.
Thank you. Is Purdue any good this year?
No. Rough year 1 under first-year head coach Ryan Walters.
Yeah.
The state of the Big Ten this year.
It's bad.
I mean, it truly is.
Is Ryan Day going to get fired?
No.
You don't think?
Would be shocked and blindsided. There's a portion of that fan base that wants him gone.
I think it's getting bigger and bigger.
But no, I'd be truly shocked. Especially, like we talked about, Ryan Day has a Michigan problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
What in the world is in store for Michigan next year? With Harbaugh and the NCAA, like, Ohio State could also maybe sit back and see what happens there. And if Michigan sort of takes itself out of the picture with this entire mess, then you're good to go. I mean, you're in the playoff every year. Can't forget, Ohio State was a made field goal away from winning the national championship last year. They make that field goal, they are the ones destroying TCU in the national championship, not Georgia.
I'm fascinated to see what happens to him. And I'm surprised. You brought up him in the A&M job that seems to be just like now going to Mike Elko. And again, I don't want to sound dismissive of Mike Elko, but I don't know. I think that Ryan Day, trying to pursue Ryan Day there makes so much sense to me.
Would have been a big boy move, right? Which is what A&M considers itself to be.
What is the athletic director on record saying about not being an 8-4 job?
Right. This is a national championship job, and he's right. So go get a national championship coach. They think they found one in Mike Elko.
Okay. Polls, please.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's the segment where bias takes over and nuance goes to die. Now, here's your favorite Buck Rising Show correspondent, Lucas. Pan, make that poll Zika.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty. New Ford. What do the Titans do well at home that is not translated on the road? Colton says they win. Tim says better quarterback protection. Only 1 sack allowed yesterday.
You know, it's yesterday, and it's at the Colts that was their best pass protection days on the season. So, you know, Tannehill got sacked 5 times by the Chargers at home. I don't remember the numbers by the Bengals, but it was at least 3, I want to say. I can go back and find a game book. I don't know that that's necessarily been the case. I think the thing that's been the most consistent about them generally is the pass protection has been poor as they work their way through these 8 different offensive line combinations.
Titans pass rush has had its best days at home.
Yes.
As well.
That is absolutely true. The rushing attack has been best at home, and the pass rush as a unit has been best at home.
How would you describe the Titans' offensive philosophy? We'll get into this some more tomorrow. Karen says, run first, pray on 2nd and 3rd down. I would actually disagree with that. The Titans aren't a first down automatic run team anymore the way they were under Todd Downing.
Brother, they opened up yesterday with 2 straight plays on the opening drive in an empty set. Nobody in the backfield. I looked around and said, who are these people?
Scoop Man says, trying not to lose.
Yeah, that's important. Try not to lose.
Get into it tomorrow. How will you remember the Joe Milton era at Tennessee? Ben says running out of bounds as time expired against Ole Miss at
That's
home.
not fair.
In a losing effort. Goody says athletic guy that can throw a country mile but can't throw an intermediate route.
Yeah, that's true.
Karen says she'll remember he can throw an orange 110 yards. Smokeball says inconsistent.
I'm scared for him. He's going to be remembered for throwing things that aren't footballs.
when it's all said and done.
More than he is for throwing the actual football. Joe Milton, and I said this earlier, I think, better teammate than he was a player, and that matters as you try and build like foundational principles of your program. He's a good person to help guide Nico and the team into the next phase of whatever that looks like.
Just all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
It just makes it that much more frustrating, right? When you just want to see it come out on a consistent basis.
I just love the idea of you sitting there watching that Vanderbilt game somewhere and just seething at the idea that Joe Milton is going to have like 6 touchdowns total on the day and waited until Vandy to do it.
Who would you rather have as your head coach if you were a Texas A&M fan? 56% say they would have taken Mark Stoops over Mike Elko. The actual A&M fan base obviously thought differently.
Yeah, no, I mean, A&M made a decision after almost hiring Stoops that Stoops was not good enough and that Mike Elko was. So it's tough. It's tough to argue. I mean, I think it's tough to argue for Mike Elko. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just have a lot of respect for Mark Stoops. And I don't want to discount Elko just because I'm not as familiar with his resume other than what he's done at Duke is really, really hard, and he's had good success there, both recruiting and in terms of coaching.
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Blaine and Mickey coming up next. Hey, if you're in Franklin or the surrounding area, both Blaine and Mickey and Lucas and I will be at the Hattie B's location, the new Hattie B's location at the factory in Franklin. Come hang out, get some lunch, talk some shop. It'll be a great time. We'll see you guys out there tomorrow. Have a great rest of your afternoon.